So let me welcome the panelists to this panel, Navigating the Migration Challenge. We shall discuss how we, the Europeans, can effectively manage migration. It's a limited time and we cannot cover all aspects, so we shall focus on the external dimension, the political dimension, the economic dimension, and humanitarian dimension of migration. And we have speakers with us with good knowledge on these different aspects. Last year, the European Union adopted a big legislative package, the Migration Pact, focusing mainly on strengthening the external borders and managing the migration flows. Since the migration crisis in 2015 until now, all efforts in the EU and in the member states have been aimed at controlling and restraining the migration pressure. As of 1st of January, Bulgaria joined the Schengen space, and the expectation is that lifting the internal borders will facilitate the access of the Bulgarian business to the single market. But it also increases the responsibility of our country to guarantee the security of the external borders. Now with the panelists, we shall start discussing this complex of challenges and how we, the Europeans, can manage the increasing flow of migrants looking for asylum or economic security and prosperity. Let me introduce the panelists. We have Dr. Solomon Passy, founding president of the Atlantic Club of Bulgaria. Dr. Passy is a Bulgarian politician, Minister of Foreign Affairs, 2001-2005, and in this capacity, he held the negotiations and signature of the accession of Bulgaria to the EU and NATO. In that capacity, he also chaired the Security Council of the UN and was president in office of OECC. He's, as I've said, a Bulgarian politician. In 1990, he founded the Atlantic Club, which was the first pro-Atlantic non-governmental organization created not only in Bulgaria, but on the territory of the Warsaw Pact. At present, the Atlantic Club launches different initiatives addressing global security. So, Dr. Passy, you have the floor. I would invite you to share with us your ideas on is it affordable and possible to manage the external dimension of migration. You recently published an article in Bulgarian 24 Hours Daily and shared with the general public some ideas. So you have the floor, Dr. Passy.
Thank you, Ambassador, for this so generous introduction. I would like to follow up on a picture which I had the opportunity to show in the first panel. So I will ask the organizers, Irina and Elina, to be kind to put again the picture on the screen behind us. This is the African picture. Do we have it? Oh, the picture will come. We have something like, yes, this is the picture, which I will remind once again. 125 years ago, Europe had 3 times more population than Africa, and in 20 years from today, Africa will have 4 times more population than Europe. Moreover, the population of Africa is young, energetic, fertile, while the population in Europe is getting reduced and is aging, very much aging. So we have to expect a very natural you call it tsunami or avalanche, both are true, of migrant flow from Africa to Europe. And there is no wall, no barbed wire which could stop this tsunami. The only thing that we can do is not to prevent the migration, because migration is the oldest social activity. Remember, when Adam and Eve were expelled from where they were expelled, this was the first act of migration. To get out of the excellent place and go to the wild world is quite a migration. And migration hasn't stopped until today, and it cannot stop, and it will not stop. That's why the only thing that we can do is to manage it, but not to stop it. Our suggestion is easy to formulate. We have something like between 30 and 40 million companies in the European Union, and we can incentivize them to open subsidiaries in sub-Saharan Africa. Opening such a subsidiaries will have multiple effects. On the one hand, they will reduce the wealth gap between the European Union or Europe and Africa. This move will suppress the push factors for the migration and will make the migration less urgent and less needed. Such a belt will be school or academia to adapt the migrants to the European realities. And also it will transform Africa into a richer market for the European Union or for Europe. Of course, as I said in the beginning, this will help very much to fill in the Draghi gap, because a number of the regulations which are obligatory here in Europe could be loosened or even abolished in Africa. We are in the situation of inter-influencing each other between Africa and Europe, and the big question, who will transform whom? Is it Africa to transform Europe, or Europe to transform Africa in the best possible way? Yes, the picture is there.
Thank you, Dr. Passy. And where the money will come from for such big investment in Africa?
At this moment, we have quite a program in the European Union called Gateway Europe, and it has a sufficient package for investments. But this investment should be focused on the migration and reducing the migration and managing the migration. The money is there.
Thank you. We shall now turn to the political aspects of migration, and I wish to invite Mr. Thorsten Geissler, Honorary Director for Regional Cooperation in the Atlantic Club of Bulgaria. He's German, attorney at law and politician. He was director of the program for rule of law for Southeast Europe of Konrad Adenauer Foundation, based in Bucharest, and for several years he has been director of the office of Konrad Adenauer Foundation in Sofia. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for this kind invitation. It's a pleasure to be here. I will focus on regular migration, and I think the situation in Europe is a very clear one. Most EU member countries try to attract young, skilled workers from abroad, because Europe is an aging continent and it becomes more and more difficult for companies to find skilled young workers and qualified workers on the local labor market. Where aging societies, less and less people work, and more people live from their pensions. And this has a social dimensions, because an aging population needs more doctors, nurses, and geriatric nurses. Germany is desperately trying to find geriatric nurses worldwide, in particular also in Southeast Europe. And of course, we have economic problems if companies don't find skilled workers. They have to reduce production, they have to close, or they relocate. This is not an option if you want to secure prosperity for the future. So I think we have no choice. But of course, we have to manage it in a way that is accepted by society and does not lead to problems that can run out of control. Every problem has pros and cons. Every solution has pros and cons. If you stimulate immigration, then you can, of course, fill job vacancies and skill gaps. You can sustain economic growth. The pension gap can be filled by the contributions of new young workers, and they will also pay taxes. It's a major problem already now in Germany. The taxpayer is heavily subsidizing the pension funds because you cannot cut the pensions. There are too many. They would vote you out of government. But there's a problem. If you spend taxpayers' money on pensions, you cannot spend it on infrastructure, schools, theaters, and so on. Immigrants, if you get the right ones, bring energy and innovation. They bring fresh ideas. Host countries are enriched by cultural diversity. That is controversial. Some people embrace cultural diversity. They love ethnic food. They love to go to festivals organized by minorities. Others would prefer to live in homogeneous societies. Well, I definitely belong to the first group, but I have to respect that there are others. So you must do it in a way that is accepted by societies. And of course, we must be conscious that there are also cons, and I will name them. For example, migrants can be exploited. They will be ready to come to another country just because they want to live there, the circumstances are better, they will accept low wages. This can lead to a depression of wages in general, and this will have an impact on the local population. They will become, of course, unhappy with this. There will be social unrest. There can be pressure on public services. There's a big immigration debate in Switzerland now, and many people complain, we have too many immigrants, the trains and the buses are too full, just to give one example. And of course, if you do not manage it well, and you have too many immigrants, unemployment can rise. And also this must not be underestimated, there can be integration difficulties and friction with local people. It depends on from where the people come, the immigrants come. Do they come with a completely different cultural background, or do they come from a similar society? And of course, you can have a security problem if you invite the wrong people. And these are serious problems. So the question is not if, but how. We have no choice. But we have a choice how to manage it. And if we manage it well, we will become more prosperous. If we manage it badly, we will have big, big problems and will not be accepted by society. And we need, in democratic societies, we need the support of the public. So there are a few points that have to be kept in mind. Housing is a major problem. Everybody needs a flat, an apartment, a small house. If you forget that, if you just listen to the economy, we need young skilled workers, and the housing markets get strained, then you have a major problem. Canada is seen as a model country for immigration. Immigration was never a problem. It was, well, everybody was of the opinion it enriches us, makes us more prosperous. The government of Canada was voted out of, or had to resign, because now 58% of Canadians say we have too many immigrants. Why? Because they have a housing problem, and the average income, average worker with an average income is no longer able to find affordable accommodation. And this way the acceptance for immigration is, of course, reduced. And we want to live in a liberal democracy. I think we share this, most of us do. So it is difficult if you invite people who do not share this conviction. That leads to friction and puts our future at stake. But to sum it up, regular migration, well managed, is without any alternative, whether we like it or not. One word about illegal migration. Of course, it must be fought. People come with a short-term visa and want to stay for the rest of their lives. Okay, that does not work. We must have control of this situation. And I would like to say a few words about humanitarian immigration. We talk a lot about the abuse of the right for asylum and the right to be granted temporary protection. And we must control this and fight the abuse. But humanitarian migration is a human right. People who are persecuted, who are at risk of losing their lives, who are at risk of getting tortured, must be admitted by peaceful countries like Germany, Bulgaria, and other EU members. That is a moral imperative, and we must fight those who want to scrap it, because it would ruin our civilization. So to sum it up, it's a complex problem, and all depends on the question whether it's well managed or not.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Talking about internal management, I would like to invite Dr. Andrey Bachvarov to share with us how local businesses can benefit from migrant workers, and can we manage migration. Just a few words about Dr. Bachvarov. He's a founder of a very successful Bulgarian software company in Bulgaria. And he has some experience participating in different projects regarding integration of migrants in Bulgaria, the cultural and economic challenges which they face, including he's an employer of more than 600 migrants coming from Ukraine, Moldova, India, and Nepal. So, Dr. Bachvarov, I would invite you to share with us your views on the benefits for local businesses, and can we use artificial intelligence in order to manage migration? Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, probably the best integration project we ever had was employing those people. We actually currently employ over than 700 people, and we're trying to do it in a well-managed way. I completely agree it's an inevitable situation. Let's recall the Germans' Marshall's Plan. It would not be possible without the workers from Turkey, and not only Turkey, happening. It's not only a matter of funding. I could use the example of Bulgaria, where we talk about shortage of workers. Numbers are very different. You know, they vary from 100,000 people to maybe 300,000 people. And the problem of aging also concerns Bulgaria as well. And now with the Schengen, it's, you know, the problem is even worse, because we also have a problem of properly retaining those workers that come from abroad. What I'd like to emphasize is that it's an inevitable process, and I agree with Thorsten on that. You know, we need a proper, healthy mix of foreign immigrant workers along with our own workforce. There are a lot of things that Bulgarians, for example, are not willing to do, are not able to do, and also it's a way to enable our own population for a better career growth. Because there are many skilled workers coming from, let's say, India, Nepal. As you mentioned, we do employ for several years a lot of people coming from Ukraine. We have a huge Bulgarian minority living in Moldova and Ukraine. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of people. They're ready to work, they're ready to integrate. So what I wanted to emphasize is that this has been happening despite the efforts of the government. I heard many talks about innovation. Yes, I also deal with IT, and there are also ready tools to be used. I'll give you an example. There is a tool called GeoMatch. It was developed between Switzerland, ETH Zurich, and Stanford. And it's a tool for integration of refugees and migrants. And let's not confuse those two aspects, although it's about human lives. And the numbers quoted, it's been already implemented in Switzerland and in the United States. So it led to probably year-on-year 40% better placement of refugees based on historical data, both personal and macro data, which is matching people much better. In Switzerland, they report 75% improvement in job placement of those people and retention. So we have multiple tools like that. Portugal, for example, is utilizing AI for fraud prevention, because utilizing modern AI tools, you can easily check on documents, you can verify documents, a lot of things that's been done manually, and it will be done manually, including Bulgaria, still. So we have a mismatch between misuse of tools, and it's very weird. Germany, for example, is also taking a good AI approach to predict migration flows, taking any kind of data, including climate data. So we mentioned today a lot, and Mr. Passy mentioned a huge tsunami or avalanche of of people coming from Africa, and he's absolutely correct. And a lot of those things are, we're not taking them into consideration. But back to the topic, what needs to be done here? I completely agree that it needs to be well managed. Because in Bulgaria, for example, which is not only a problem of Bulgaria, there is a lot of mistreatment of workers. There is a good example, for example, exploiting the national policy of getting seasonal workers. A lot of people from India and Nepal, for example, are suffering. They're only invited by people for 3 months. I'm talking about blue-collar workers, the most vulnerable part of the population. And it's a nightmare, because you have the tools, you have all the AI tools and expertise. You also have good examples that already are implemented and work, where through reinforced learning, AI can help you identify specific action items, how to update procedures, how to avoid human bias and human inconsistency in taking decisions. So, we try to bridge the gap as much as we can, and because nobody is a prophet in their own village. Our best bet is to collect those good practices from countries that already implemented that. And I'm talking also countries that, for example, are close to profile to us. Croatia has done an amazing job of implementing a lot of workers from India and Nepal. Latvia, for example, they have the ability now to have a more decentralized decision-making on what embassies and consular services are able to do, and employ third-party organizations that have the business acumen and experience of doing that, and also implementing those tools. So, and to sum up, what I wanted to say, there are multiple successful examples how this is done within the European Union. They're synchronized. All we need to do is reach out and basically enable more businesses in that direction. And there was a very good example that was published on the 14th of January. There's a new amendment in Bulgaria, a legislation that now enables more companies like us to be able to intervene and take a ground on that.
Thank you, Dr. Bachvarov. As I mentioned from the beginning, it's a huge area. Migration is a huge area. And we shall touch on several aspects. We covered the external, the economic, political. Now let me switch to the integration aspect for migrants. And I have the pleasure to have with us Mrs. Dina Jebali. I shall switch to Bulgarian to introduce her. It's not because she doesn't speak English, she's a very good English speaker, but just to demonstrate, to illustrate how a migrant has integrated into my country. Госпожа Дина Джебали е мигрант от Сирия. Тя успешно е преодоляла социалните предразсъдъци и за да получи българско гражданство, магистратура от Техническия университет, да се изкачи по социалната стълбица до позицията директор по услугите в технологичният отдел на Yettel, една от трите мобилни компании в България. За мен е удоволствие да ви чуем, да споделите вашите впечатления от приемащата страна.
За мен грижата за мигрантите в приемаща страна е точно като отглеждането на една млада фиданка в една нова почва. И точно като една фиданка изисква внимателно поливане и трябва да има защита от сурови ветрове, от слънчева светлина, така и мигрантите. Те имат нужда от подкрепа, от ресурси, от разбиране, за да се адаптират и за да могат да процветяват в този свят. Мигрантите, когато ние осигурим правилната грижа за тях, аз съм сигурна, че те ще обогатят тази среда, където те са. И те ще пронесат за разнообразието и жизнеността на екосистемата, която обитават. Аз наистина вярвам, че трябва да дадем шанс на мигрантите. Както и на мен, много хора ми дадоха шанс, за да мога да съм с вас днеска. За мигрантите нещата и живота много е труден, защото не е лесно човек да остава всичко, каквото той прави зад него, да ходи на ново място и започва от нула, където нито знае езика, нито се запознава с никой, нищо. И трябва да оцелява в тази нова среда. И в държава като България, от моят опит, мога да кажа, че голяма част от хората приемат чужденци. Но разбира се, като навсякъде, има малка част от хора, които не приемат. Помня, в началото на моята работа в Yettel имаше една колежка, която просто не искаше да работи с мен, защото съм сирийка. Пробваха всичко, не става работата. Но в една уважавана компания като Yettel, те дадоха на тази дама първи, втори, трети шанс и когато нямаше промяна, разделиха се с тази дама. Но в същото време, защото аз съм сирийка, приемаме част от работа, които другите в компанията не искат да приемат. Като, например, част от моята работа, че аз съм крайсис менеджер. Това значи, че ако има криза, проблем с мрежата, аз съм отговорна да водя инженерите и менеджмент да решим проблема преди наши клиенти да усещат. И аз винаги шегувам с моя шеф, че той ми избра за тази работа точно защото съм сирийка, защото за мен няма криза, няма значение колко е голяма, която ще ми кара да се страхувам след всичко това, каквото видях в Сирия. Всяка криза за мен е piece of cake, както казвам на него. Друго нещо, което искам аз да кажа, че мигрантите те могат да помагат не само от професионална гледна точка, но те могат да помагат много на среда. Аз съм сега жена на българин, майка на един много готин българин, който е сега на 2 години и половина, говори и разбира 2 езика. И аз съм сигурна, че този малък българин, когато той расте, ще помага, ще има много интересен поглед към света и ще прави много хубави неща за България.
Well, thank you very much for sharing a personal story. Now I have also the privilege to hear the representation of the Refugee Agency in Bulgaria, the agency to the High Commissioner on Refugees of the UN, Mrs. Seda Kuzucu. She is in Bulgaria since 2022, but before that, for several decades, she has been working with different teams and in different roles for the Office of the High Commissioner for Refugees. She has been in a number of regions all over the world, in Tunisia, Myanmar, Sudan, Ethiopia, Kenya, Thailand, Kitai, just to mention a few. So I would invite you to share with us your assessment of the humanitarian aspects of migration, just to cover one more dimension.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the invitation. I have to say that managing the asylum remains a challenge because the reasons for leaving the country is also the human mobility is so intermingled, meaning could be a climate reason, could be war, could be persecution, or could be economic reasons. But what we are talking in here is the refugees that who are leaving, who are forced to leave their countries. And unfortunately, in the mixed moments, it's very difficult to identify them. And sometimes the economic migrants are using the asylum process in order to enter the system. So that is the reason that we are also having these problems against the refugees. We need a paradigm shift to turn this to a win-to-win situation. And I think to invite UNHCR to this economic forum is a paradigm shift, because humanitarian is integrated with the development. Because from the day one, any humanitarian crisis, you need to start also the development activities, because refugees are also resources, and they are not leaving their countries just because of the economic reasons, but also because of the in order to find their life in peace. And I would like to give an example because of my being in different continents. Maybe Mr. Solomon will appreciate, because I was part of, in 2018, a project in Kenya where I was living in a Kakuma, which is close to South Sudan border. We have almost 300,000 refugees on 25 nationalities were living. And this was a camp for 3 decades were there. And there you have children, refugee children born 3 generations there. And this was just near a small village, was a 2,000, and the camp was almost 300,000. So in 2018, with the IFC, World Bank, and the EU funds, we developed a 5-year development program, which is called KISIDEP, because we find that actually in the refugee camp per year, $56 million of economy is going on. They have their own schools, they have their own markets, and Kenya, Uganda border, everything, there's a trade is going on. So how we can change this dependency to humanitarian to be a development, we say. And we did this 5 years program. The second is, luckily, is done, is also 2023. And this makes the people, the settlement, host and refugees are living together. It opened an integration policies, and also secondary movement, meaning leaving the camp, is also stopped. And now, last year, Kenya, the president announced the Sharika law, which means living together law. So the proper integration law is there. So we really see that the refugees can be a huge asset if they are given, and I think Dina is one of the living examples on here, and this is what we really need to look into it. In Bulgaria, we definitely need integration policies, and if we not look at the issue, we and us, is the most important thing. We are all together on this. We need a legal framework on these movements. We need an integration policy. And then, of course, we need to work in a coordinated manner. And currently, EU is in the EU Pact. Hopefully will be implemented 2025, June. And this is really a chance. We always say that you don't integrate to a state, you integrate to a society. That means the role of civil society, the role of the faith leaders, the role of private sector, of course, the role of the refugees are really important. So we need to bring all dimensions together and to see them as a resources for development, and they all come with skills. Or they might be coming from our long-term war zone areas that the schooling is not there, but they are willing to learn. So upskilling is also very much important. For them is also learning the language to integrate the society. As you see, Dina is the one speaking Bulgarian. It's really important. And these opportunities needs to be given. Then it will be really an asset for the country.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, we made the best effort to cover several dimensions of migration, not all, of course. So I would invite our esteemed panelists for their concluding remarks and to try to answer European question. Are we on the right direction? Is the European approach to migration forward-oriented or just responding to public sensitivity? Thank you. Let's start with Dr. Bachvarov.
Thank you. As a conclusive statement, I would challenge the need for new legislation because legislation is already there. There is not a single country that wouldn't have a specific legislation on migrants, refugees, how to treat them, how to operate them. What I would advise, though, is better regulation in whitelisting and blacklisting of operators in the market. Because the role of the private sector is hugely important, because we need to make this process self-sustainable. People should be able to come and contribute to the society by adding their culture, their skills, and actually making the society better. Because we're all aware of the anti-immigration sentiment. In Europe, it is becoming a nightmare, which creeps into policy, and then it creeps into the bias of ordinary people, and we're not very far from huge clash that will come from within Europe on this subject, which would prevent all those things. So my takeaway statement would be, let's search for good practices that already work and that are already implemented. Let's connect the private sector, and let's enable the private sector as kind of a leading force, working together with legislators to implement something that's sustainable and that can actually work and push it forward.
Thank you. So there is a right balance between public sensitivity and forward-oriented approach to migration. Simply, we have to do it. May I invite Thorsten to share his assessment?
Thank you very much. A political aspect. All over Europe, there are now populist parties that stir anti-immigration sentiments. And of course, it serves their purpose that from time to time, also in my country, horrible crimes are committed by immigrants, by asylum seekers. That makes headlines. But every day, thousands of immigrants, asylum seekers live peacefully at our side and contribute also to our prosperity. I'll give you an example. So if we follow these parties, we will inflict harm on ourselves. It will cost us prosperity. It will cost the old generation the chance to have the last years of their life in dignified circumstances. I mentioned the need for geriatric nurses. So this is the political aspect. And to give you one example, not long time ago, a few weeks ago, the Syrian dictator was toppled. And in Germany, some politicians say this is wonderful news. Now, all the Syrian refugees and asylum seekers can go home immediately. And what happened? The Chamber of Crafts spoke up and said, are you crazy? Almost every second apprentice for craftsmanship is a Syrian. Germans don't want to become craftsmen, but we need them. If you want a plumber to repair your home, a technician, you need a carpenter, well, then you cannot count on German natives. There will be too few. So I think we need a rational debate. I hate extremes. In 2015, there was a euphoria. Refugees welcome. At this time, I warned, I said, not everybody who comes with good intentions. Let's have a closer look. Now it's the other extreme. We are no longer able to see the positive aspects of immigration, and that is wrong as well. So I plead for a rational debate without too many emotions. This way, we have the best results.
Thank you, Thorsten. Now we wish to invite Seda to share her assessment.
Sure. I think before I give my last statement, we need to also give you some statistics. Globally, we are talking about refugees. Within the migrants, we are talking about the refugee population. And the 75% of this refugee population currently is living in the low and the middle income countries. So the fear that they will come from south to north is, with these statistics, is not there, but unfortunately it is definitely used in the media and the election things. So, and within the EU, according to European Commission, there's 10% of the irregular migration last year. So we have a regular migration, and we have this population of the refugees who are forced to leave their countries. So how we can have the legislation or implementation of the legislation to integrate better to the society that they want to give it back. And the last but not the least, we need to also look at the whole route approach. Don't look at only the last border when they arrive, but what to do on the way. Is there a way that we can do more activities on the way until they reach to Bulgaria? They might pass to Turkey, they might pass to Egypt, they might pass to other countries. What can be also done in this, and I think already the European Union has started, but keeping in mind the protection principles in the core. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you. Dina, it's your turn now to share with us your concluding remarks.
Добре, но пак ще говоря на български.
Добре, на български.
Както казват на български, хубавите неща станат бавно и трудно. И аз наистина вярвам, ако има ясна политика за интеграция, това ще прави нещата много добре за мигрантите и за приемаща страна. И заедно ще гледаме към бъдещето, наистина да правим по-добра България от тази България, която имаме сега. Аз помня едно нещо, когато дойдох за първи път в България с майка ми, бяхме в летището. И за 3 часа един полицай ми пита 150 хиляди въпроси и повтори и иска наистина аз да показа, защо това каквото аз казах е вярно или не е вярно. И след 3 часа той ми каза, извинявай много. Аз виждам, че вие сте добри хора, но трябва да разберете, че аз искам само да свърша моята работа. И аз му казах, разбирам. И ако аз съм вместо теб, най-вероятно ще правя същото. Затова наистина ясна политика за интеграция ще помага много. И аз вярвам наистина, че ще имаме по-добра България от тази България, която имаме сега.
Много ти благодаря. Dr. Passy, your final concluding remarks on migration, on managing migration.
Maybe in the short, in the visible radar screen, the migration is manageable, but I would like to give you an example for unmanageable migration, which is the story of my family. And Dina inspired me to share this with you. As far as we know the history of our family, our migration started in the 2nd century AD, after the Jewish rebellion against the Romans, when the Jews were expelled from my family, was expelled from what is today Israel, and they went to what is today Yemen, which was called the Old Kingdom of Saba. Then, something around the 10th century, through the deserts of Sudan, Nubia, Libya, Sahara, they moved to what is today Al-Qabil, named Algeria, and from there they moved to Fes in Morocco because of the university there, which was known to be the best university in Africa or maybe in the world. After living for 3 centuries there, they moved together with the Arabs in Spain. And in 1492, the Jews and the Arabs were expelled from Spain. All those centuries between the 2nd and the 15th, we always lived together with the Arabs. And we were together expelled from Spain. Then we came through Italy and France, Italy, to what was at that time the Ottoman Empire. And one good day we woke up in Bulgaria, in Plovdiv. In 1948, after the Bulgarian Jews were saved during the Second World War, half of my family remained in Plovdiv, and half of my family returned back to Israel, making a full circle around the Mediterranean and the Red Sea, coming back to where they started from. And after that, the migration continued with other branches of my family, which went either to the United States or to the UK or to Argentina. So this is a story, and I cannot imagine how this migration of 19th centuries could be managed. This is something unmanageable, but I very much hope that the migration which is started today of Dina after 19th century will be better managed than my own. And I make use of this occasion that we are on this podium together with Thorsten Geissler to thank to him and to Konrad Adenauer Foundation, which he was running at that time, who supported me and Gergana to publish this book in Bulgarian. So this story now could be found in a book. And for one final argument why the migration will never stop, I will ask Irina and Alina to put on the screen the second picture that my colleagues share with you. Could you, please? Now you will see the picture. Yes, the migration continues in space. And we shall be little by little colonizing the moon, Mars, and everything else. And this is the logo of our annual youth festival, Hello Space Bulgaria Calling. I would like to invite all of you for the next edition on the 24th of June. It is a youth festival, normally speaking with astronauts, with inflating the imagination of the youth, the children, the students. And I'll be happy to invite all of you to join our event. And moreover, I would kindly invite your sponsors to become our sponsors, with the permission of Simeon.
Well, thank you very much. We are not planning to migrate into space yet, but we still have a job to do here on the planet on managing migration, and consider it as a natural process over the years, historically. But today, in 21st century, you have a lot of tools to do it, to make it beneficial for everybody. So we are on time. I want to thank the panelists for their participation. We had views from different sides. And according to the program, our panel was the last one from the morning session of the Economic Forum. So now the organizers invite everybody to a light lunch. Enjoy it.